Welcome to an hour of HealthMade Radio. HealthMade is a community for natural health seekers where we educate people about common health conditions and share extensive research on the most effective natural health treatments and promote legislation that protects our health freedoms. A core concept belief is in the innate intelligence and healing power of the body, and if properly supported spiritually, emotionally, and nutritionally, it can find its way back to health. HealthMade Radio will bring you information from integrative health experts throughout the world. Check us out at healthmade.co. Health is what you make it. Today's guest is Lauren Walker. Lauren Walker is the author of Energy Medicine Yoga, Amplify the Healing Power of Your Yoga Practice in 2014 and the Energy Medicine Yoga Prescription in 2017. Both books won the Nautilus Silver Award for Best Mind-Body Book. A celebrated teacher of yoga and meditation since 1997, she created Energy Medicine Yoga, EMYoga for short, while teaching at Norwich University, the oldest private military college in the country. The huge success of her work there led directly to the publication of her first book. Lauren teaches EMYoga across the United States and internationally and has been featured many times in Yoga Journal as well as Yoga Digest, LA Yoga Magazine, Mantra, and the New York Times. She also trains teachers to teach her highly intuitive, simple healing method. She was recently named one of the top 100 most influential yoga teachers in America by Sonima. EMYoga is compatible with all types of yoga and is the only yoga style in the world with its own built-in healthcare system in the form of thousands of practitioners trained at Inner Source, Donna Eden's celebrated School of Energy Medicine. Lauren, it's such an honor to have you on the show, and I'm so grateful for what you're doing to promote healing throughout the world.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and just listening to your tagline about if you just give the body what it needs, it will heal itself, and that just says everything right there.
Absolutely, and it's just bringing the body back to its natural state, and what we can do to achieve that, and recognize when we're out of balance, and also recognize all the stressors that pushes us out of balance.
Absolutely.
So for the listeners, can you tell me a little bit about, first yoga? What is it? What does it do? Why is it important? And then I want to expand a little bit more into the type of yoga that you do.
So yoga in general is a practice it's really a practice of self-discovery and coming into union with the self and with the energies of the divine or the spirit within the self and externally to that as well. And a practice of self-realization. And more it's become a practice of physical well-being. And it's kind of taken a real turn down that path in the United States, in the Western world, over the past really like 10 or 20 years, that it's become almost exclusively a physical practice, and a really athletic physical practice at that. But really, energy is all there is, and yoga is a practice of energy and understanding how energy works in the body, even though that's not as much how it is taught today, because we've just kind of oversimplified things, and as we tend to do in our Western culture, is to externalize and almost objectify things. So it's about making the body stronger and six pack abs and tight butt and all that kind of things that really have nothing to do with what yoga is about. And so the work that I've done is really bringing the direct experience of energy back into the yoga practice, and through both ancient techniques and modern science, uniting those two together within the context of the physical yoga practice, as well as the breathing practices and meditation practices, to bring you back to health and healing as you had said before, when everything's in balance, the body naturally heals. It's programmed to do that. And then to help us manifest things in our lives so that we can be happy and joyful and content and thriving instead of struggling with simply the day-to-day experiences of being alive.
So because you were talking about then yoga in the beginning, it was more about self-discovery and connecting with the divinity within you, expressing that divinity. So what is it? Is it just the movement, the poses, the breathing, all of it combined? I mean, how does it? I mean, I recognize meditation. How you can then connect with the source, within. But how does yoga then accomplish that?
So traditionally, in ancient practices of yoga, the physical practices were simply to get the body acclimated and ready to sit in meditation for long periods of time. And it's sort of been reversed in modern practice of yoga, where we sit in meditation for brief periods of time and do quite long physical practices. But more and more now the studies are coming in about the power of meditation. And so people are really almost doing that independently of yoga practice. There's all kinds of meditation schools and techniques and programs and apps for your phone and things like that, because the studies have come in showing the benefits of that for both spiritual connection, but simply for health connection as well. Your health improves, brain function improves, memory, all of that improves simply by sitting in meditation. But what's interesting, I think, in a holistic yoga practice such as EMYoga, and there are others, of course, as well, is that there are many ways to feel our union, our interconnectivity, and our feelings of divinity and awe and wonder at being in this world. And those aren't limited to simply sitting in meditation or contemplation and prayer. Those I've experienced myself even before I started my yoga practice, of how physical practices can bring us to that experience. And if you've ever spoken with elite athletes, or not even elite athletes, but runners talk about a runner's high, and dancers, and really, if there's anything that you do that you get into what they call the zone, right? That place where time stops and you're fully engaged in the present moment. That is an experience of divinity and oneness. And that can be accomplished many ways. And in the EMYoga practice, that is one of the things that the physical and the breathing and the meditation and the other techniques that we use bring you to that place of stillness within movement and just your presence with what's going on, so that you really are in that present moment and in that place of experiencing awe and beauty, and even just simply that peace and contentment. I mean, we're such a world that's always striving and seeking, whether it's for betterment of ourselves or of our communities, or it's for, we're such consumers and creators, and so it's like the next thing, what's the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And so we're kind of on this little wheel of, what more. And when you can stop that and be in the present of contentment with what is right now, and that perfection, that is a divine place.
Yeah, because if you're already moving towards the next thing, you're always reaching out, you're always looking outward, and that then depletes the energy within the body, instead of then conserving and kind of moving it properly. You're always just kind of spreading it out into all directions, and obviously that then you have fatigue, adrenal fatigue, endocrine imbalance. And disease follows.
Absolutely. And, you said the word conserving, which is exactly one of the main things that we do in energy medicine yoga, is to bring the body into coherence, which is using the least amount of effort to get the most amount of benefit. And that is how the natural world works, and works when it is all in harmony. Deer aren't out there lifting weights and, running just for the sake of running. They are conserving energy, and everything, everything is done. Doing nothing and everything is done. It's one of the sutras, or a koan, do nothing and everything is accomplished. And so that's part of what we do and learn to do is how can you do less and achieve more? And by more, it doesn't necessarily mean, gaining in the physical world of, things, but achieving that peace and that healing. Because, of course, when you're not overexerting, the body has the energy to heal, which is the second most largest expenditure of energy in the body. The first is digestion. That's what the body spends most of its time doing, is digesting food and then eliminating that and putting that where it needs to go. And then the second thing that the body spends its time doing is healing. So if we can minimize the amount of time that we're overexerting with stress, with excessive emotional energy that isn't being processed well or correctly, all of those things you talked about, adrenal fatigue and burnout, if we can eliminate and minimize those, then the body digests and heals. That's what we do. We're just like babies. Digest, heal, sleep. Digest, heal, sleep. Then we can play a little in our free time.
Yeah, wonderful. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to HealthMade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and I'm here with Lauren Walker. Welcome back to HealthMade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Lauren Walker. She's the author of the Energy Medicine Yoga Prescription. So you're mentioning some of the difference between normal or regular yoga, I should say, and the energy medicine yoga. Can you tell them a little bit more how they differ and what drove you into the direction to create energy medicine yoga?
So as I mentioned before, yoga is an energetic practice, but it's not taught so much that way today. And if you practice traditional yoga, chances are you've heard of a couple of different energy systems. You've probably heard of the chakras. That's the most well-known and utilized within modern yoga context. And you've probably heard of the aura as well. And those are two of the energy systems in the body. But in EMYoga, we work with 9 energy systems in the body, and we work with them all in an integrative way, just the same way the body works with its physiological systems, the endocrine system, your blood, your bones, the fascia, all of these different, the digestive systems, pulmonary, all of the different systems in the physical body are interconnected. And the same with the systems in the energetic body. And of course, we know this from Einstein and more from the studies of quantum physics, which are really just blowing open everything we thought we knew about the physical world. We are only energy. We are energy, and from that energy that densifies and becomes the physical body. So if we actually work with the energy primarily instead of the physical body primarily, then we can affect changes much more easily. And so we work with 9 systems from all different cultures woven together, and that's the brilliance of Donna Eden, my teacher, who created Eden Energy Medicine, from which I adapted to become energy medicine yoga. And so the systems are all the same in all of our bodies, no matter where you are in the world. It's just that different cultures focused on different systems. For example, in India, they focused more energetically on the chakras. In China, on the meridian system and the radiant circuits and the 5 elements. In the ancient Celtic lands and the Celtic weave and systems like that. And so, but we have all of them. And so that's what we work with in EMYoga in very, very easy, very tactile ways. It's not at all woo-woo or esoteric. It's actually quite physicalized, the ways that you can get into the energetics, which is, it kind of really startles most people how easy it is to get into the energetic body. And I got into this work when I had taken a break from teaching yoga, was a little bit disillusioned with the modern yogic world, and was starting to feel the limitations of what I could heal in my own life with the yoga practices that I had learned. And so I had sort of an option of going further down and deepening my yoga studies with other master teachers, or doing something different. And at that time, I was introduced to the work of Donna Eden. And she herself is a miracle story. She had MS in her late 20s and many other illnesses as well. She'd had a heart attack and tuberculosis, and her doctors basically said she was going to die. She needed to find someone to raise her kids. And she said that was the best thing she'd ever heard, because she walked out of that hospital and said, okay, obviously Western medicine can't do anything for me. I have to do something for myself. And she had always seen energy since she was a child. Actually, everyone in her family sees energy, and everyone can see energy. We just sort of stop using it. It's like any language. If you don't use it, you don't retain it. And we stop talking about energy with our children. You know, the imaginary friend then ceases to exist, and probably the imaginary friend was some sort of energy system that the child was seeing. But Donna always saw that, never lost that ability. So she started to look at her own body and work with her own energy systems, and healed herself completely. She is 75 years old right now, and the most exquisite, thriving, energetic person you've ever met. And so I was introduced to her work, and I thought, okay, I could go more yoga, or I could go towards miracles. And I'm that kind of person. I want the miracles, because that just, I love the mind-blowingness of that, of people that heal themselves from cancers and just all kinds of things. There's so many miracle stories, deathbed stories that are just reversed in a moment. And the power that the human body and the human mind has is so thrilling to me. And I went down that rabbit hole with Donna and started to really feel tremendous changes and incredible healings in my own life. And I started to incorporate those practices into my yoga practice. And when I finally did go back to teaching, I was teaching those practices, which became energy medicine yoga. At the time, it didn't have a name. And my students had the same powerful effects that I had experienced, much more than my students prior to that when I was teaching traditional yoga. And I shared that with Donna, and she just encouraged me to make it into something that was concrete. And now it is. I've got 2 books and programs all over the place, teaching teachers how to teach this, and online courses. And the demand for it is growing because people want to heal. And not only that, is they want to heal quickly. And I think part of it is our cultural, Western medicine silver bullet idea that you can take a pill and heal something has really brought people to the desire and demand for instant healing. But the fact is the human body is much more powerful than anything Western medicine has produced. And so, when people are in difficult situations and even desperate situations, and they don't necessarily have time to wait for clinical trials and studies to come out to prove this and that. And these methods really work, and so people are just drawn to them, whether they're, quite ill, which I have a lot of those students as well, or just, your average person who has struggles that are not extreme, but are extreme for them, depression or fatigue or just general despondency in life, or certain aches and pains that they can't resolve. I mean, the beauty of this work is it really meets you where you are, whether it's, you've got a paper cut or you've got Parkinson's disease. This work is going to help you.
So is this medicine, the EMYoga, is it a individualized, let's say an individual coming with cancer versus somebody dealing with heart disease? Would they go through the same process, or would the yoga be individualized based upon what they're dealing with and what their imbalances are?
Well, that's a both and question. So the second book that I have, the Energy Medicine Yoga Prescription, outlines just that. It's a prescription for you specifically, and so you can go through that book and create for yourself the prescription that you need, depending on what you are dealing with energetically, physically, emotionally. But there are some general things that will be the same for everyone, and some of the basic rules of energy and directions that energy needs to go in the body. And one of the things I found so fascinating, there's a little piece of the practice. It's called the Wake Up, and it's at the beginning of the practice section in book 2. It's in book 1. I've got videos all over the place. You can find it for free online. It's called the Wake Up, And it has the two most important energy flows in the body, which is the energy needs to be moving forward and it needs to be crossing over. And those two energetic flows, those two patterns of energy, are the root cause of every disease pattern in the body. In other words, if your energy isn't moving forward and isn't crossing over, that is the root of everything that could be going on in your body. And that's not to say that if you get your energy crossing over and moving forward, you're going to heal your cancer or your heart disease instantaneously. But if that's not happening, those things and those issues, depression, fatigue, sadness, all of those things, they can't be resolved because it's like having a half a tank of gas. Your body doesn't have the energy to heal, and it can't heal itself if those basic patterns aren't enacted in the physical body. So some of the things will be the same for everybody. And then you'd go to the different tables in the book and you'd look up your specific ailment or issue and see which element it falls under, where your imbalances lie, and then you would find the practice to do to help to bring yourself into balance. And even though there are those tables there and you can look things up very specifically, it's both very specific and very general, because we're not diagnosing an ailment and giving you a silver bullet. If you have a disease pattern in the body, you have an energy imbalance in the body. And so our goal and our method is to help bring your underlying energy into balance. And then the body is going to go and do what it needs to do, which is to heal those imbalances, which oftentimes will include the disease or the issue that you're dealing with. But also your body has its own hierarchy. And so other things may start to resolve first or primarily, and then, moving forward, depending on how severe your energy imbalance is or your disease pattern is, then the energy will start to work on that. So it's a little more diffuse as well as being specific. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to HealthMade Radio. I'm here with Lauren Walker. Welcome back to HealthMade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and we're listening to Lauren Walker. She wrote the book, The Energy Medicine Yoga Prescription, where you can actually thumb through the book, and if you're dealing with a health condition, you can find the specific poses that will help and support you while you're going through that condition. So it is truly a prescription that is targeted for you, which I really, really love. You did mention that two things that were the most important thing was for energy to move forward and energy to cross. Can you expand a little bit on that for people that aren't familiar with those terms? What does that mean?
That's a great question. So essentially, you've got energy systems, as I mentioned before, running in different pathways all over the body. So you can think of it like a highway system is one metaphor for one of the systems. And, there are one-way streets and two-way streets, and there are clover leaves and exit ramps and entrance ramps and all of that. And you think about it, if you start driving your car the wrong way down a one-way street, you're going to run into trouble. You may run into other cars. You may then become stopped, and then you cannot move any further forward. And at that point, your energy or your car is stuck. And when that happens, then all sorts of things start to back up behind it. You lose your forward momentum, and maybe you're on your way to work, and then you can't go to work, or you're on your way to buy food to make dinner, and then you can't. So you can see what happens is everything that was supposed to happen when you were easily moving forward no longer can happen because now you're stuck, or even worse, then you've got to start backing up down the street. So what happens is our energy has a particular direction that it wants to move most effectively in the body. But there are all sorts of things that can stop it from doing that. And there are ways that the body actually stops it itself. So when you get tired, there's that 3 o'clock drop in the afternoon or in the evening, and you start to get tired. That's your body saying, giving you information. It's time to go to sleep, or it's time to take a siesta and take a little nap here at this point in the day. And we've found ways to override that, most often with caffeine or sugar or simply sheer willpower. But the truth of the matter is the body is very clear energetically on what it needs. And when you wake up in the morning, oftentimes your energy is still not quite up and moving forward to get you going in your day with ease. So again, we resort to caffeine. And, a lot of people don't know. We think of cortisol as a fight or flight hormone. But when you wake up in the morning, your cortisol actually is one of the things that helps you wake up and start going. And if you have lowered cortisol in your body because you have had too much stress and now you have inadequate supplies of cortisol, you don't have that ability to wake up easily and, again, start moving forward. So it's like you're sitting in your car and the car's in neutral, or worse, the car's in reverse, and you're trying to get down the street. And so that's one of the most important flows, is that the energy has to be moving forward so that you can get to where you need to go and easily do the things you need to do. You can also think of it as like floating down a river. You're on a raft and you're floating down the river. It's very easeful. You just lie back and you look at the surroundings going past you. But if all of a sudden you're rowing upstream and you're trying to get downstream, like you've got these two oppositional forces happening and you're using so much excess energy instead of just allowing yourself to float in the direction that is most easeful. And then the crossing over pattern is one of the patterns that energy flows most naturally in the body. And you see that with, if you look at pictures of the DNA, it has that spiraling pattern which crosses over and over itself as it rises, and all the way up to the hemispheres of the brain, which operate opposite sides of the body. And all of your cells has this internal and external, sort of, you could call it a yin and yang or positive and negative force, which is, again, that crossover pattern. And so in order for all of your cells and all of your metabolic processes to work efficiently, the energy has to be crossing over. For learning, you see children with learning deficits and they start to do these crossover patterns, and all of a sudden it's easier to read and easier to retain information. And it's the same with us. When our energies are crossing over from the hemispheres to the opposite sides of the body, everything flows more easily, everything integrates more easily in the body. And so those are the two ones that are crucial for everything else to happen after that.
So for an individual that, I know in your book you target this disease, and maybe these are your deficiencies and these are the poses that would really help you to open up that energy flow. For an individual, how do they know? I mean, if they don't deal with a specific disease, but they just feel that they're out of balance and they need something, where should they start? I mean, because they can't really. It's hard for them to know exactly what pose to do. I mean, what would be the best beginning for an individual?
Mm-hmm. So the best thing for everybody, no matter what's going on, is to start with the wake up, just to get that essential energy set in the body and starting to create that beneficial pattern. Because again, energy creates habits in the body and forms habits in the body. And some of those are good habits and some of those are difficult and challenging habits. And so we want our energies to start to repattern into more beneficial habits for the energy. And so everyone should start with a wake-up. And as a matter of fact, that's something that I often give to beginners because there is a lot in both of these books. And so to not feel overwhelmed, just start doing the wake-up. And I encourage people to write it down. So every day for a month, and just write down, 9:15 a.m. wake-up. So tired. I don't even want to do this, but I'm doing this new program, and I don't know why, but I'm doing it. Day 2. 7:15 a.m. Wow, all of a sudden I just woke up without my alarm today. Okay, I'm going to do this weird little technique again. I don't know why, but I guess I'm going to do it because I said I was going to do it. And then you start doing that every day. And usually around sometimes it happens very quickly, day 4 or 5, sometimes it's 7 or 8, 11. And people start saying, wow, I have more energy through my day. I'm more efficient at everything I do. My relationships are easier. Everything is more coherent and harmonious in my life. I'm not getting angry when little things go wrong. And all of that happens just from this little 2-minute technique. And from that point, people say, okay, now I really want to dive in and understand and do more of this practice. Not even understand, because most people, maybe they want to know why things work. Maybe they just want things to work and work better. And so after that little chunk where they're like, oh, they see the results, then they dive into the practices. And, I've got these books, but I also, if you're a visual learner, I have a couple of classes online at dailyom.com where you get yourself guided through with videos and journaling and practices to create your own home practice by adding 1 to 3 minutes a day. And so you little by little build a practice, again, that's very specific to what you need energetically. And we're putting more and more things online for people that live. We've got a lot of people internationally that can't come to live events. And so we're creating more materials for people online. So, it's really, you can guide yourself as you need to, but the simplest thing is just to start with that wake up and just see what changes happen for you, and that will guide you to what more you want to end up doing.
And what does that wake up, what does that entail?
It's really, it's so simple. It's kind of funny, and I often say that at classes, like, I know this looks really silly, but please just try it, and you'll find out how it works for you. So it's thumping or massaging or tapping different points on the body. The first one is like doing the Tarzan thump all over your chest, and a certain particular breathing pattern, breathing in the nose and out the mouth. And so it starts with 4 thumps, working on the general point of getting energy awake and started, sort of like the on button for your body, and then stimulating your immune system, stimulating your spleen energy, which is about integration in the body, and stimulating your stomach energy for grounding. So that's one of the precepts of healing, is you need to be grounded in order for the energy to work. You think about your plug, it's got that third prong that grounds excess energy so that things don't blow up when energy kind of becomes too intense or too much. And that happens in our body, and that blow up is, heart disease or inflammation, all of those kind of things that the body has excess energy that it can't diffuse. Stress is one of those. So grounding is very important. So those are the 4 thumps on particular areas of the body. And then the crossover is literally marching in place, tapping your same hand to leg, and then crossing over, tapping your hand to opposite leg. If you've ever heard of brain gym, that's something that they do in that as well. Because, again, for years it's been known that this crossover pattern is so important. And then we work with a couple of meridian swipes, you could say. If you're used to working on, a computer or a phone, about swiping here, swipe left. But you swipe up a pathway in the body called the central meridian, which is about the integrity of the core of the body, not only the physical integrity of the spine and the central nervous system, but the emotional integrity and energetic integrity of the body, to keep that really in alignment. And then the last hold is connecting the front and back energies of the body. Just sort of set that in place, kind of like a little snap, like snapping a button closed, to set those energies in place. And for some of us, if you're quite out of balance, if you've been sick for a while, or you're depressed, or you sort of have an energetic pattern of being in unease or dis-ease, then you may need to do this little whole wake-up thing several times during the day. But the whole thing takes, 2 or 3 minutes at most. So it's pretty easy to start to reset.
Wonderful. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to HealthMade Radio. I'm here with Lauren Walker. Welcome back to HealthMade Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with Lauren Walker, and we are talking about the benefit of energy medicine yoga and how it can help you with your health. So, this simple wake-up thump that takes just a few minutes in the morning, that seems extremely powerful to kind of get the body going. You also, in your book, you're talking about, we're talking about these 9 different systems, and I know one of them being then the Chinese, and you have all the different elements like water, fire, and so forth. How do you? So are there different positions, and to help to bring these these imbalances into where they need to be.
Absolutely. So the whole second book, the Energy Medicine Yoga Prescription, the outline of it is based on Chinese five-element theory, which is a theory that holds that everything in the universe is one of these five elements. And so the physical universe itself, your physical body, and then every part of your body falls into one of these five elements, your emotions, your personality. It's an incredibly vast system, obviously including everything in the universe, the cycles of nature, the cycles of your life. I mean, it's huge. But the beautiful thing of how large it is it's also incredibly small in that everything is only one of five things. And so when you're looking up what you may be having an issue in, you will find that it lands in one of these five elements. And what's even more powerful about this is that our emotions are reflected in the five elements. And so we have a way to work with the physical body through the emotions and work with the emotions through the physical body. So it's not about therapy and talking about issues, but it's actually about physicalizing in the body and releasing the energy of a particular emotion so that it doesn't become physicalized in the body, which is what happens when we don't process our emotions. And unprocessed emotions is the number one cause of stress in the body. And of course, stress is the number one cause of disease in the body. So you can see that working with your emotions is incredibly important. And of course, now we have the science from Candace Pert and others that have proven that that the emotions affect our physiology and vice versa. And so we have ways of processing and releasing this emotion from the body, which then starts to release the physical imprints and physical limitations that those emotions have caused, by stuffing them down, by denying that they exist. That denial doesn't stop them from existing. It just stops our conscious mind from having to deal with them. But we stuff them into the body, and they emerge in the physical body in myriad of ways, and none of them are good. And so each of the elements has a peak pose and a sound that goes with it that helps to release that energy. And all of them together is called the five-element flow. And it's just a series of those five poses all linked together with the sound. And it's so lovely to do. And there's many ways to use the flow. You can, journal about a specific incident or issue that you're dealing with, or you can simply go through the pose and just let the energy release. And then there are other holds that you do at the end of the practice to release and transform the challenging emotion into its more beneficial counterpart. And it's just a really beautiful practice to start to work with the emotions, again, without having to go through that consciously drawing up the situation and, going through that whole, like I said, that therapizing of an event or talking about it, which can actually just more and more start to reconfirm the issue as opposed to release the issue. And so this work sort of supersedes that or goes around or above that by working directly with the energy of the emotion. So it's quite a powerful system, and I've really loved working with it and learning more about it.
Yeah, because it's spending hundreds of hours in session talking about issues when you can then use and movement and open up the energy flow and then move those emotions out of the areas where they're stuck. That seems to me to be a much more elegant way to address these stuck emotions.
Absolutely, and much more easeful. You'll still have emotional releases, and if you've ever studied yoga or practiced yoga before, you've been in classes where people are crying or sort of having some emotional experience because they've opened up some part of their body where emotion is stuck. But in traditional yoga practices, I haven't really seen many ways of offering then the students how to then deal with that emotion that's coming up. And so this practice has just very clear ways of dealing with it. And so many of my students have found massive relief. And like you said, the elegance of it, of having this as a daily practice so that you're, sometimes we're not even aware of the emotional residue of things that, again, have happened long ago, maybe precognition ages or things that we've really shut down and compartmentalize, especially if they were quite traumatic and something that we just don't want to look at. And we can process that energy and release it again without having to dredge up those stories that are so detrimental to keep hearing ourselves repeat over and over again.
And you were mentioning earlier when you were talking about Donna Eden and her work that you saw then people almost instantaneously getting healed from very serious conditions. Is that something that you've seen with your practice, the energy medicine yoga, that you've seen such dramatic results?
I have, and over and over again. And if anything, that's the most powerful piece that keeps me really engaged with this work. Every retreat or workshop or training I have, we have a miracle board on the wall, and people come up and write their stories, and they run the gamut. Some of them, digestive issues that have resolved and sleep issues. And those are two of the biggest issues that people deal with today: the inability to eliminate from the body, or the inability to sleep. And of course, those are two most important things that you have to do to heal, right? You've got to, according to Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga, all disease starts in the gut. So if you can't assimilate your food and then eliminate it from the body, your toxins, that's where your disease is going to start. And of course, sleep is where all of your healing begins. So some of those miracle stories are just beautiful. People who haven't slept in years, and all of a sudden they're sleeping through the night. But then there are other stories that are just incredible. I have a woman who's in my master program right now that had breast cancer, and her second round of breast cancer. And when they removed lymph glands from her armpit, the doctor actually nicked a nerve ending, and she lost feeling in her upper arm. And he said, if the feeling doesn't come back in 6 to 12 months, it will never come back. And it didn't. And 18 months after the surgery, she came to my training, my first level 1 training. And the first day, at the end of the day, when she took her compression sleeve off, she felt her hand on her arm, and she thought, interesting, well, that's probably nothing. And the next day, same thing, she felt her hand on the back of her arm. And she said, is that something? Is that real? Am I really feeling that? And that night she went to sleep, and she woke up in the middle of the night with a strange sensation, and it was the covers bunched up under her arm that she hadn't felt in 18 months. And she had full feeling back in her arm, and she's in my master program and just shared with us this past weekend. A year later, she still has full sensation in her arm. And, people are just, it's just that kind of, again, the body just has this miraculous ability to heal, even when the doctor said, no, you will never get function back. 3 days into a level 1 training program, she got complete function back into her arm. And that's the power of the physical body. And I could just tell you so many stories on and on about how this work helps people. And the thing about it is, you don't have to be special to have a miracle healing. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to understand the ins and outs of yoga or the ins and outs of energy or quantum physics or any of that. You don't have to be special or unique, or, you just have to do this work and give the body what it needs, get your energies working for you. And the body is miraculous, and it does miraculous things when given the right tools.
And that's what's so incredible. We live in such a physical world, so we always think that in order to be able to fix something, we have to do it physically, meaning that we have to attach the nerve, or we have to repair that tissue. All of it is these physical interventions, but then working with the more subtle energy, and like you're mentioning that, at the end of the day, we are all energy. If you look deeper and deeper into physical matter, the physical matter ceases to exist, and we just become energy. So then, by working on it through an energetic solution, like your system, the energy medicine yoga, you can then actually change tissue, and you can change the physical world because you're working on the building block of what creates our physical existence.
Even just hearing you say it just gives me chills, because that's how it works, and it's so incredible, and it is so. Unfortunately, it's sort of diametrically opposed to what we really believe how things work. which is why I'm just a junkie for studying quantum physics and quantum dynamics to try to understand how it really works, because it's fascinating and it's elegant and beautiful. I mean, the universe and the world and the physical body and all of it is just so incredible and strange and wild and beautiful. And I love that my work takes me into those fields and that I get to see and experience and kind of midwife people through the process of learning that as well. And that's really how we're going to change our world for the better for everyone, is removing ourselves from this false ideal that the physical world is all that there is, because that's just led us into the difficulties that we're in now. We're talking about energy. One of the biggest things that's changing our world right now is our energy consumption, when really there's endless amounts of energy that is clean and free, and there are ways to access it, to use it for everything, not just the healing of the body. So the more we start to understand these concepts and really make them more mainstream, the more we have the capacity to transform our world into one that really is a Garden of Eden.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, Lauren, it's been such an honor to have you on the show today, and I so appreciate the work that you're doing in regards to bringing healing to the world. And this is definitely, I was fascinated reading through your book, and it's just filled with amazing information that's practical, very useful. Anyone can open up the book and then go through the different poses, different systems. And I know that you have a huge amount of information on the internet as well, videos, YouTube videos that can guide people through all these different techniques. I really urge the listeners to reach out and try this powerful medicine. Really give it try it. It's very inexpensive. It's just you doing techniques that opens up healthy, normal flow. So thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
That is it for today. You're listening to HealthMade Radio. Remember to check us out at healthmade.co. Health is what you make it.